Okay, shall we? Shall
Yeah.
I? Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. How's it going? How are we feeling about AI? Ooh, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes.
I feel like work is changing so quickly. It's kind of making us question what it fundamentally means to be a human
Yes.
in the post-industrial age,
Yes.
right? I'm seeing nods. It's not just changing what we do, but really work itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real pleasure to be here. As mentioned, I've been in the AI game for a while. My first job in AI was actually at Microsoft. I got it after applying on LinkedIn. So
There we
shout
go.
out, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a side hustle, writing job. And then I just became fascinated with what this technology meant for us all and really designing the personality and the communications. I love talking about AI for so many reasons, but because you really can't discuss AI without talking about philosophy, without talking about society, without talking about anthropology, all the ologies. So I'm really hyped to get into this. And please join me in giving a warm welcome to our esteemed guest. We're going to talk about all that and more. Aneesh, Raman. Hello.
Yeah, thank you.
So everyone's very excited about your book, and we were just discussing it, weren't we? And I thought we should start simple. What is AI?
Yeah.
Because do any of you feel a little confused sometimes? We've come so far, and it's like, okay, let's just take it back to basics and just have the humility to say when we don't understand something.
Yeah, I was at an event yesterday, and they played a video from a 6-year-old who said, "What is AI?" And it was this great sort of provocation of how to simplify it. And at least what I told Samuel was, it's just like a bike. I mean, if you think about bikes, not everyone knows how to ride a bike, but we all believe anyone could learn how to ride a bike, as easy as riding a bike. Bikes help you get further, faster to places than if you were to walk. They're fun to use in certain moments. Electric bikes are there. You can coast if you want, never have to really pedal, never have to really work at it. And that's what really AI is. It's sort of like a bike for our mind in the sense that it can, in a personalized way, unlike any technology before, help us learn something new, help us create something new. If we want to turn on that electric version of the bike, we can give it a whole bunch of stuff that we do at work and not have to do that work. So it comes down to how we use it, but it is one of the easiest, if not the easiest to use technology that humans have ever created. And why it's important, I think, for us to say that is, we're all, I think appropriately, and we'll get into it, afraid of AI. And I think the reason we're afraid of AI is that it's being presented as something in a zero-sum arena of work where the more it does, the less we will need to do. And it's going to keep getting better with autonomous AI, agentic AI, super intelligent AI, to this place where it beats us at everything. And the reason for that, and you'll know this, but I don't know if others know, there's something called the Turing test. Raise your hand if you've heard of that. Yeah, so the origin story of AI is literally, can it beat us at doing things in a way that humans can't decipher the difference? So it was very much human versus AI. And a lot of the excitement that builds around AI is that it starts beating us at things. It beats us at chess, it beats us at writing, it beats us now at more and more complex tasks like coding. And so for all of us, that feels like the game. It's us versus AI, and then we're told we have to get AI skills and AI certifications, but then we're like, okay, this is a complicated technology because I need skills and certifications, and then I'm using these skills and certifications to train this thing that's already getting better than me and eventually is going to replace me. And what we tried to do with this book is reset the story, because that actually isn't how this is going to work. It's going to be human versus human with AI. And so if you think about you, there's someone exactly like you in a similar job, and not exactly like you. We talk about the uniqueness of humans, we'll get to that. But but there's someone in a similar role as you who's using this tool. They're using it to get rid of some of the stuff they do in their day. They're using it to do new stuff that they couldn't do before, learn things, build things, and they're creating space to work a little less, to think a little more, to brainstorm, partner, have coffees with other humans. And so that's how you want to think about it. And even if that feels a little Hunger Games, like look to your left, look to your right, I think about it as like what I couldn't do 5 years ago. It's me versus me. And what I'm able to do now because of these tools. And ultimately, where economic growth happens, where careers are really like taking off, it's when you're using these tools and agents and all that's coming with other humans to do cool things. Because single human with every AI tool that's available versus 2 humans or more than 1 human with all the AI tools that's available, because we get into anthropology, we get into sociology, we get into humanity. More than 1 human beats 1 human every day of the week. I mean, that's how we've progressed as a society, has been by innovating together. So I wanted to use the bike as an example, but also remind us why we have to reset the combo, because it isn't us versus AI.
Much like the business of AI, which we just discussed, I find the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know.
Yeah.
And you go down a little rabbit hole, and then there's 10 more rabbit holes suddenly, which I know doesn't sound very calming, but it is exciting. And even with that answer, you know, that's like 5 more questions that I'd like to ask. So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
I like the metaphor of a bike that takes you places. And then you talked about the emotion that it elicits. And that's why I asked the room how you feel about AI. And we've seen a shift over the past couple of years. I just told you, people used to pay me to come into their businesses to tell me how much they hated AI. And I was like, well, it's your money, bro. But now people are really excited about it. But they are either really excited or they're terrified. Why do you think it elicits such a very strong, visceral, human emotion? And why is that a very natural thing?
Yeah, so I'd say for 2 reasons. One, what I said, the story that has sort of dominated for 3 years now has been me versus AI. And so that's one where the more it does, that makes me fearful, the less I'll be able to do, and it's zero sum. But for 300 years, we've had a similar story in terms of the industrial age and work. So in the industrial age, the machine goes to the center of work. And everything about the industrial age, from the steam engine to electricity, from the internet to AI, is about the rapid scaling of the production of goods and services. And everything about work for humans becomes about efficiency. How do we humans, in org charts that are about stability, predictability, and order, with career ladders that give you clarity about your slot in the org chart and the next rung on the ladder, how do we humans help the machines do more, better, faster? And we became about more, better, faster. We became machine-like in what work has been for almost all humans across the industrial age. And now I think part of what's freaking us out about AI is we are meeting a machine that's going to out-machine us. And again, it goes to the zero-sum construct. If AI is going to be able to do all the sort of more, better, faster, efficiency-based work that I can do, including the technical skills and analytic skills that we have told people to go get expensive degrees around, to go invest careers around in order to get paid the most. If AI is going to do all of that, we've internalized this diminished sense of self as humans. And we think that's all we can do, what we've done in the industrial age. And so that's, I think, an underlying part of the fear. And so when we wrote this book, it's not a how to AI book, it's a how to human with AI book. And there's a really practical reason we decided to spend 90% of this book on humans, on the human brain, the human condition, human capability. We had to define what makes us us, what's unique about humans, what's going to be more unique about us with these tools, because we realize that's one thing that's not going to change as these tools change. The human brain is the most amazing object in the known universe. Human intelligence. It is what came up with artificial intelligence. It is what came up with everything in the world around us. The human brain, the one that we have capable of complex thought, creating stories that lead to nation states, civilization, the monetary order, it's at least 40,000 years old, maybe up to 70,000 years old. By size and shape, humans have had this brain for about 300,000 years. The industrial age is 300 years. So for a very small fraction of time, with this amazing brain that we have, capable of so much more than we've done in the industrial age, we've collapsed who we are and so internalized it and embedded it in all the structures of work that I think we're freaked out that that's about to change. And part of what we're trying to say is, let it go, as chapter 2 is titled.
Oh, letting it go, it's a lifelong lesson there. I want to pick up and get to know a bit more of the research that you've done into the neuroscience, which I think is so fascinating. But before I do, I think what you said was interesting about how we're in this era of it's you versus you, and it's really up to us to upskill. And I see where you're coming from, but just devil's advocate, devil's avocado. What about like the idea that AI, that there's too much kind of push on the individual in that? You know, like AI is collective intelligence. That's how I define it sometimes. Imagine if we could pull all of our brains and then pull from that. And so while you make the argument that it's the end of more, better, faster, do you ever worry that that is putting too much onus on the individual?
So I'd say 2 things there. One, we call out in the book when we transition from chapters that are about individuals to chapters about companies and how they have to change and economies and how they have to change, that there is only so much you can do as an individual, that you can do everything that we say you should do in the book, which is a first guess for people. We're going to iterate on this, but you can become adaptive, resilient, exercise these human capabilities around entrepreneurialism. You can see your job differently and shape it differently, see your career differently, shape it differently. But if you are not in a company that is supporting that kind of growth, if you are not an economy that's supporting that kind of growth, you're going to be limited. So a lot of the back end of the book is a call to action for companies and for economies. But the flip, I would say, is that like, it is on us individually. No one is going to take care of our career but ourselves. No one is coming to save any of us. We have to figure this out for ourselves. That is true for us literally as individuals, the choice, the agency we have to use these tools or not, to use these tools to change our jobs or not, to use these tools to think about how we're going to reshape our careers or not, entirely our choice by the mindset we bring, by the desire we bring, the curiosity we bring. The reason that's important is because in past moments of disruption, so go to steam engine, electricity, internet, those generally played out over years and they happen top down. So for me in any of those moments to say, hey, it's on you, it would not be credible because it wasn't on you. It was going to be your boss's boss, the heads of companies that decided, here's what we're doing with steam engine, here's what we're doing with electricity, here's what we're doing with internet. You find out what it means for you by getting laid off, reassigned, told you got to redo your job. Right now, no one at that level has any idea what's going on. I mean, the game is completely changing. This is going to be a worker out, worker-led transition. One of the data points we have in the book is that 70% of the skills in the average job will have changed by 2030. So you're in a new job even if you're not changing jobs by 2030. Now, when you hear that, it can sound stressful and like your boss knows how it's supposed to change, their boss knows how it's supposed to change. Am I doing the right thing? Are they going to just come to me and tell? They have no idea how your job's going to change. They actually don't have any idea what you do every minute of every day. You know what you do. You're going to know, oh, I can give this stuff to AI. I can use AI to do this new presentation I want to do to learn this new way to talk to engineers. I can use the time I'm saving to go partner with someone to go create something, to do a side hustle, to take a day off more frequently. You're going to have control over that. And that's really what we're trying to say is, yes, there's anxiety out there and it makes sense. And yes, the macro environment is the macro environment, but we all have more agency than we think. And the book ends with the idea that no one's going to beat you at being you. We're going to enter this era, I think, of personalized work. Your career, the success of your career is going to be dependent upon the degree to which you have articulated your uniqueness and made that core to your job and core to your career. I'll end with me as an example. My career makes absolutely no sense by job title. 1 + 1 does not equal 2. I was a war correspondent at CNN, became a speechwriter to President Obama, did growth at startups, was at Facebook doing economic impact, was working for the California governor on economic strategy before this job, in a title that literally our CEO made up a year ago. It's a completely made up job. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 for me in old work, because people would pull down the org chart and say, where do you slot in? And I couldn't pick a place, and that was really hard for me in interviews. But now I have a job that's based on these unique capabilities I've honed. Explanatory storytelling, done that my whole career. Coalition building, that's when I left journalism to join politics. How do I mobilize action? That's business development as much as policy advocacy. Economic opportunity is this issue for 10 years now. I have studied from every angle. So if you're looking for someone in a job that requires explanatory storytelling to build coalitions around economic opportunity, which, by the way, in the midst of the greatest disruption of work in human history, LinkedIn was looking for, like, I'm your guy. But that's where we're all going to have to get to at a micro level in our jobs. But we have control over that in a way that I don't think all of us realize.
Look, I always say I'm a techno optimist, but I don't want to be naively optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about the potential and I want to, live that utopian dream. But I think for all of us in the room, when we hear that 70% of our skills are going to be changed, that feels quite big, right? It's like, 70% of what I do is going to be changed. Yeah. And so while I love that this is about mindset and I love the energy behind it, how do you change people's minds when they come to you and they're very understandably, very humanly terrified? Yeah.
Well, so we have a lot of neuroscience. First, you start with empathy. I mean, the human brain is wired to fear change. It is not wired to get exponential change. We are in a moment of upending exponential change. So it is your biology that almost guarantees you are going to be afraid, not that you're off or broken or wrong or anything like that. Then we go through why that's unhelpful, though, to just sit with that fear and hunker down or hold back, how S-curves work, how technical adoption just suddenly goes from slow to suddenly everywhere, and why you need to get engaged. And then we have really practical steps that you can take. But the through line through it all is, and what's amazing about neuroscience and everything we know about neuroplasticity, no human makes a big leap out of the gate. it's all small steps that lead to the big leaps. You've heard that phrase, I forget, it's like the overnight success that was years in the making. I mean, that's how all of this works. That's how we work as humans. So you're not going to tomorrow 70%, next week or next month. You're going to tomorrow 1%, or maybe 0.5%. Then the next day 0.5%. Then the next day 0.5%. And so the one thing that you can take away that is the roadmap for us all is do one new thing tomorrow. Try a new tool. Try the tool you use in a new way. Try to take time to hone these capabilities that we call out as uniquely human. Try to find time to meet with someone that you wouldn't have otherwise reached out to. Get uncomfortable in some way that is achievable for you to do tomorrow. Then do another new thing the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And within a couple of months, you're in a rhythm of it that you're starting to really feel the shift happen. So that's like the most amazing thing about being human, is that no one does anything overnight that's big. It always happens through small steps. You just have to commit to it as a daily exercise.
It feels like the time we're in now, it's painful and amazing. You know, sometimes I go into businesses and I'm like, there's someone that's using AI who feels like they're cheating right now, and they don't want to tell you about it, but they should be rewarded at the moment. But it's also like, I had another conversation which was, you know, when you're watching Blade Runner, there's no wires. But now we're trying to plug in the wires. And it's an interesting time. But I suppose with your story, you know, your career being so varied, war correspondent, speech writer for Obama, hopefully it will give people some kind of solace that having a strange career is good. Like I used to interview rappers on YouTube. So, and that's how I started out of uni, and now I've worked in tech for 10 years.
My God, what a drop. Now you're interviewing me, man.
No,
really going down to go up.
No, but it's interesting, I guess. And what I thought when I read your book, I think, you know, it's really interesting that you ended up writing a book about emotions and mindset when you came to write about technology. But I understand that in a way it might be frustrating for some readers. They're like, yeah, okay, cool, but what should I actually do? And do you think it's fair to say the most important things to develop is emotional intelligence? And if so, how? And then how do we measure that?
Most important thing is just you got to use these tools. I mean, that's actually there is already we were in the old version of work, and as we talk about in the book, that is all the industrial age. We think the knowledge economy created some escape from the industrial age. There was a moment when I was going through one of these drafts, and we were really thinking about the assembly line of old, like the first versions of the industrial age, and just how brutal labor was. I mean, we had to have child protections. People were losing their lives to these machines and these factories. Just how brutal work was, and then how basic work was, and how we were all just like on an assembly line, turning a piece of the whole part. And then we thought the knowledge economy was some like new era of enlightened work, right? That people were going to get these degrees where they could think, create, they're going to go into these white collar jobs that were the escape from the assembly line. And I remember as I'm thinking through this, I look up, I'm at a coffee shop, and 3 people were in front of me on their laptops, literally on an assembly line. They were just like cranking through email after email after email. And so we never left the industrial age. And that's one of the fallacies we call out. If anything, the knowledge economy really entrenched a lot of the industrial age habits around efficiency, where we then made IQ the definition of human capability. Technical and analytic skills became the heroes, first MBAs, and then it became CS majors. So we're leaving that. The first way you get out of that world is that you understand these tools. So it starts with, and it's super easy. I mean, if you're not using these tools at all, pick something you absolutely hate about your week. It could be like an exercise plan, a meal plan at home. It could be some drudgerous task at work, like summarizing stuff or doing a first draft of something you absolutely hate, and go find one of these tools and ask it how it can help you, and then start using it. Just start. Super easy. They get better all the time. They're different, each tool. So it's just got to be kind of a daily thing. Now, once you do that, now we're talking about kind of like the emotional intelligence side.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
What we had to do when we wanted to define what makes us us was define it. It's actually super surprising. Humans have not done a great job defining what makes us us, because the machine, not the mind, has been at the center of work. So we came up with what we call the 5 C's. And these are what we think are the unique human capabilities at the intersection of IQ and EQ, of consciousness and conscience. And this is where we're pulling from philosophy and anthropology and psychology. Curiosity, creativity, compassion, courage, communication. So we go through each of those in the book, and we go through simple ways that you can build each of those. We demystify something like creativity, not as a talent, but as a skill. You can use the tools to help you others. And then you're going to have these habits you have to build around it, like resiliency, adaptability. You're going to have to learn how to handle hard well, because change is going to be here for a while. You're going to have to be resilient through that, adaptable through that. And all of it is in service of what we sort of define the entrepreneurial mindset. Like if you want a North Star for where you want to go, that's what you're trying to get to. How do you, with human capability and these tools, become more entrepreneurial? And we spend a lot of time sort of demystifying that. That doesn't mean you go launch a business. So I think more people will, and that's going to be amazing. It means, and we have an MIT expert on entrepreneurialism who defines entrepreneurialism this way, you do more than is reasonable with the resources you have. So whatever task you have tomorrow, whatever project you have next week, what is more than is reasonable that you could do with that with the resources you have? By the way, one of your resources is the most democratizing technology that's ever existed in terms of access to know-how, knowledge, expertise, ability to test, create, build. So that's all you're doing, and you're doing it one step at a time. And we get through, and we can go through each of the 5 C's, but all of them are practicable. All of them are skills you can get better at. What we know of neuroplasticity, and we talk about the research behind it, deliberate practice that pushes yourself just beyond your comfort zone on anything you're trying to master gets you there eventually.
So entrepreneurialism is doing more than expected with what you have. That's all very well, but does that mean that therefore AI is giving us more work? Because sometimes I feel overwhelmed, right? Like I think anybody who says they know everything about AI is lying. Trying to keep up with the AI news, good luck. I've got AI reading mine for me. And it's like, do you feel exhausted sometimes?
Yeah. Well, so AI, like the bike, like a tool, it depends on how you want to use it. You can choose to outsource everything to it, and you're going to have brain atrophy. MIT has studied brain scans. You'll have what's called cognitive debt. You'll have less creative thinking ability, creative decision making. If you just copy and paste an assignment into a tool, copy and paste the answer back to whoever gave you that assignment, you're worse off. If you use AI to do more old work, you're worse off. If you just crank through efficiency in order to do more efficiency, you're worse off. If you use AI to create new work, it's friggin' amazing. I mean, you're literally breaking out of the industrial age. So to me, it's not exhausting because one, I know I'm always behind, but I'm always trying to like just stay engaged. But my job over the past 3 years, my day-to-day work has shifted to where I spend so much less time on being in meetings that I don't need to be in. I can get the summary from AI now. Doing first drafts of things. I'm someone who has 12 thoughts at once, and so that was always super hard to think about where to start. The tools give me 12 options, I pick. I spend like the biggest chunk of my time now talking to other humans, like being out there trying to persuade you, instill in you a new belief. I've spent the past 2 years, any moment I could, going to a performance of any kind that existed, a musical performance, a Broadway performance, because I've been studying what do these masters of human energy who can kind of command a room and get you to believe in this world that isn't real or go away in your mind with this music that is like to another realm. How do they do what they do? And one of the biggest lessons I learned that I started using was like the power of the pause. Every once in a while, they just stop. And just that pause like brings you in. It like the energy, you can feel it. So now, like every day I wake up because I'm pulling more threads on this story that is going to be the rest of my life. Like, how do we better understand human condition, human capability? How do we connect humanity better in the arena of work, get pay and performance around that, teaching and training around that, investment and scaling of businesses around it. And I also like have more time to go on hikes to just process thought and to come up with like the connection of dots. So the answer to every question is my degree worth it or not? Is AI going to make my job worse or not? Am I going to lose my job? What's kind of crazy, stressful, and exciting is you answer all of those questions for yourself right now.
Okay. I'm with you when it comes to, the capability to use AI to lock into our humanness. But let's talk about when we are outsourcing our brains. You touched on it there and you talk about it in the book. There was a study at MIT which basically showed our kind of brain deteriorating the more we use AI. And I think we're in this time right now where it's dangerous. We are in danger of outsourcing all our decisions. I do it. I'm like, can I make this decision without asking Claude first? But I do think there's a world where we can use AI to help us think critically and augment our thinking. Do you agree? And if so, how do we do that?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I think the biggest risk you could do is give everything to AI because you're going to be out of a job. Because if AI is doing everything that you're doing in your day, AI is going to be doing everything you're doing in your day in a couple of years, and your brain is going to atrophy. You're going to be worse off by that exercise. So when I started using AI, my first moment when GPT went mainstream was, because I've been paid to write in various jobs. And the first introduction to AI was like, this can write. It can ask it a question, it'll give you an answer. It's an essay, it'll give you eventually a book. Everyone can write a book, books are done. It was like a real existential moment for me as a writer. And I've started over my career so many times and just like gone through hard so many times that my instinct, I didn't know anything other than, well, let me go confront this. Let me go see what's up. So I'm using the tools. I'm recognizing like, oh my gosh, it can do a first draft. It can do generic sort of like writing. I can give it asks that I could never give a human, like mix a little bit of Aaron Sorkin, Obama, and like Marcus Aurelius and give me that version. Like you said that to a human and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? So there was a moment I was like, am I on shrooms? I was just like, oh my God, like the amount of stuff I could do with this. And like, it can do all these things that I couldn't do it. And then you get to a place where you're like, wait, this is not that great anymore. It's feeling really generic, or it's just producing a volume of words, but like, that isn't something that resonates with people. And we talk about in this book, when we talk about the 5 C's and we talk about communication, we use the book as an example of that. And we say we used AI to pull a lot of research, a lot of the stories. It helped us signal, we verified it, human review. But this book is about how do you help humans who are in a moment of extreme fear and uncertainty push beyond that. To do that, you have to know humans. As we write, you have to be human. And so what AI is going to do on a lot of this, writing, for example, it creates a floor now that we all have access to that's generic. So that's great in the sense that if someone thought they could never write, which is like a really important part of expression for humans, they now have something to help them do that. We all start at this same place of like generic ability to write. But that just means that what's going to break through, because we know humans, we're going to reject what we've now termed AI slop. We're going to organize around it. We are messy, illogical, unpredictable, emotional beings. There's a taste thing. You're seeing the word taste come in now more and more.
People are obsessed with taste.
Because taste is like this like undefinable element to human acceptance of content. So now that becomes, and then the only way you break out with taste is authenticity. Writing that speaks to you, that is passionately of your lived experience, your learned experience, your sort of uniqueness in the world. What a world that'll be if we're all starting to like have help getting to that generic floor and then finding a space where we have to be uniquely us. And so you're going to find this back and forth. Right now I use the tools as a coach. I don't think they're an actual human coach, but I've given them a lot of what I'm working on. Brevity is one of them, which a book completely imploded as like a growth goal. But I'm trying to like speak less often, say fewer things to people that punch through more. So now I'll go to these tools and I'll say, I want to send this note, like this news article, like this is exciting. I'm connecting these 8 dots, and it'll be like, stop. Like you just wrote that person like yesterday. That's the kind of coaching that you can get with these tools, that you can give them the context to be able to help you with.
You can get real granularity. I think the taste thing is interesting because, yeah, it's true. AI can't tell you what piece of music makes it cry. But on the topic of emotions, I think what was interesting that you talked about was how the very fabric of work is changing. So we're no longer going to have jobs, we're going to have tasks. And I do think that's interesting. I mean, look at your own squiggly career, and obviously true in so many ways, but I wonder if there's a grief that comes with that, because we do kind of put our worth into what we do, don't we? Like when I'm at a party, sometimes I'll try not to ask, what do you do? We inherently value ourselves by how we contribute to a capitalist society. So how are we going to survive when that is no longer the most important thing about us?
I know we talk about sort of everything gets easy when you put aside your job title and just start looking as your job as a set of tasks and bucket them in 3 ways. We go through all that. But it's really hard to put aside your job title. And it's actually part of this broader thing that I think people are feeling, which is a mix between grief and like righteous anger, which is that there was a checklist of things that we all have been told to do over 300 years now. Get this degree, get this job title, work at this employer. And that was how the game was played. Those were the rules. And we defined ourselves by the degree to which or not we were able to check those boxes. So you have people at every stage of their career, coming out of college, having checked that CS degree box, mid-career, having checked that vice president title box, further in their career, having checked that state at the company to really rise up and be an institutional presence box. And now those boxes don't matter anymore, less and less by the day. And so that is really hard. But there's nothing that we can do about that. I mean, the game is just changing. You cannot slow this down. You cannot reverse it. You can't just like step away from it and pretend it's not happening. Now, the flip side is when you can shed all that, you're going to reconstitute yourself on your terms. So we talk about you're not climbing a ladder anymore, you're climbing a climbing wall. And I think that's a really important part to this existential dilemma. The ladder gave you obscene clarity. Again, check these boxes, and then you go up one rung after the other. The ladder was really limiting. If you didn't grow up in the right socioeconomic status to get that degree, to have the right network, to get that, brand name employer on your resume, first of all, you couldn't really get on the ladder. And then even if you're on the ladder, your boss had subjective ideas about what you needed to work on to get to the next rung, your company did. So everything about that existential identity by job title was outsourced. You actually didn't determine any of that. You can't determine whether you get the degree or not, whether you get into the school or not. You can't determine whether you get the promotion or not. It's up to other people. So it was all about relative worth. On the climbing wall, it's now you got to define it on your own terms.
I mean, even if we were living in a farce of our own making, we believed that our job title gave us worth, whether it did or not.
Well, it did give us worth, but I think the key differential is it was bestowed upon, it was relative worth. Someone handed us that job title that then made us feel like we were that person. And I struggled through this. I mean, up until actually going through this book, so much of my identity was by the job titles, even though 1 + 1 didn't equal 2, not by, I'm someone that really loves humans. I think every person in here is a documentary. I think that we are fascinating, that we have been underappreciated at work. I think I have this like ability with my skills to do something in this moment. If LinkedIn were to fire me tomorrow and I lose the job title, or if I became a job title that was like irrelevant leader of inconsequential thing, I'm fine with that because like I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in who I am. And it has taken therapy. It has taken starting my career over. It's really hard work. I know what it is to break yourself apart and have to put yourself back together.
Yeah, sometimes I actually think AI demands us to take such a long, hard look in the mirror, see where our blank spots are, and also ask that person in the mirror, like, how ready are you? Like, are you going to take the big leap? And I thought it was just entrepreneurship, but I also think it's the very nature of this technology in so many ways. So it's interesting that you picked up on that too, actually. I want to talk about the climbing wall because like you talk about that a lot. And it is interesting, there was a ladder, and especially with entry-level jobs now, I get asked that all the time. How are you meant to start if AI is replacing? But if we're moving from this ladder to a climbing wall, and I just have to ask this because I think if you're talking about AI, people hit you with the big political questions, but it's like, cool. So if you're on a climbing wall, then aren't people a bit more likely to fall down and fall down further? And if so, should there be some kind of safety net for them? And if you agree, what should that be?
Yeah, I mean, the basic safety net is you got to be able to afford to live. And so that's something that people have to build savings around individually. When I started out in journalism, it was called the FU Fund, which was like, you're going to save as much as you can, as quickly as you can, so that you can say that if you need to in a job and not feel trapped in that job. Societies have to do this. This is where I think we need a more mature policy conversation on what is the support for adaptability, what is the sort of support for people to weather the storm. But the thing about the climbing wall is that you'll go down, but if you do it right, it's down in service of going up. I mean, we open the book with that chapter with the story of Mo Beck, who's a one-handed climber. And what's so interesting about Mo is that she climbs in a way that only a one-handed climber could, in ways that two-handed climbers can't. And that's her uniqueness on the climbing wall. And so at any moment, she's having to readjust. Like, do I have the right form? Do I have the right position? Am I going left, right, down, up? All in service of going up, but there's so many different directions. There are going to be some moments where you're going to fall, but you're going to feel good about falling because of what it means for where you're going forward. So the riskiest thing I did before this book, because we knew how it's going to turn out and involving other people, was I left CNN as our most established foreign correspondent to join the Obama campaign as an unpaid intern at a time when he hadn't won the Democratic primary, let alone the presidency, at a time where if you left journalism to go into politics, you weren't allowed back. This is like before the blurred line. I had savings that I had like built in my FU fund, but I had no idea if this was going to work out. But I knew, again, in that like story of self, internal, define yourself on your terms, that it was just something I wanted to be part of and I had to be part of. And I was at a moment in my life I could take a big risk.
Do you think then that we have to care less what people think in the age of AI?
Yes, I mean, and in the most extreme way possible. I mean, I think the reason I'm going to devote the rest of my life to figuring this out, how do we fix work? I've always thought the labor market was one of the least transparent, least dynamic, least equitable markets humans have ever created. It does a horrible job matching talent and opportunity. Prior to the knowledge economy in the industrial age, work was brutal for people. I mean, work has never been an arena that has like encouraged people to reach their potential, to define themselves, to find purpose, meaning in life. And yet we spend how many of our waking hours at work? I mean, a huge chunk of our life goes to this arena that is never really indexed on us. And where it has indexed on valuation, as we said, it's outsourced valuation. It's, do these other people think I'm good enough to get that degree, to get that job title, to be able to say I am a. Like, shed all that.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be more competitive in your career if you're running your career for yourself on your terms.
It's really amazingly unexpected to say, if you want to succeed in the age of AI, you must shed your ego. I love it.
Yeah.
I know we've only got 5 minutes left, and we've got quite deep into the kind of philosophical thoughts around what the new technological age means. But I really want to leave the audience with some really practical implications. We haven't even talked about the buckets. But it's like, if anyone's here and they're thinking, cool, okay, so what can I do tonight to go home and actually start to get cracking on getting ahead in the AI age, what would you say?
Well, let's do show of hands. If someone asked you, like, do you know what AI is? Like, are you using the tools? How many people feel like they could answer that credibly? Yeah. Okay. So we're about half. So the people that didn't raise your hand, like, that's your thing. Like, find a thing you hate tomorrow that you don't like to do every week. Pick a tool. Claude, GPT, Copilot, go to it, ask it how it can help you. What does it need to help you with it? Just start. Like, so that if you didn't raise your hand there, like, pick a thing, go start. If you raise your hand there, you got a couple of options. Depending on how sort of fluent you are, if you've just been using one tool, try another tool. Like, push yourself to get out of that tool dependency. So take whatever you're gonna do with that tool you've been using, take it to another tool. If you're generally using AI just to do search differently and you feel like that's you using AI, like, use it for something else. Get it to teach you something that you've been curious about. Get it to create something. I mean, video is this like good, interesting arena to get better at creativity. Video is necessary for people to be on LinkedIn, be on TikTok. So many tools out there to help you edit video. It's an arena you can get creative. So think about something at work or something at home where you can make a 2-minute video and like work on that. If you feel pretty good about the AI stuff, pick one of these 5 C's. And think about one thing that you can do that pushes you to an uncomfortable place. Like, be more courageous. Like, say something in a meeting you otherwise wouldn't say. Ask a question. Ask someone a coffee you wouldn't do. Be compassionate. Call someone that you work with and just say, hey, let's go on a walk and just talk about our lives. Like, let's not talk about work. And maybe it's someone that you have a hard relationship with at work. Take it to some other place. Like, just find a way to flex something new across both the tools and human capability and then humans with the tools. And then just do one new thing. It doesn't have to be every day. Even just do it every week. Like, the thing about it is, we're still so early in this. And so I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my God, I'm not where they're at and I'm hopelessly behind. Like, just by you being here, check the box on you're early. Like, just the fact that you're like trying to get your head around this, you're early. So just do one thing as often as you feel comfortable doing, but get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's what you're trying to do. And then if you did one thing and you spent your most time on that, it's your story of self. And so we talk about jobs as tasks, careers climbing walls. The real task I would put everyone is like, spend a minute and write down everything that makes you amazing as you are. Because so much of the industrial age was all the deficits we had. You got to go get this. You got to go get that. You got to go get this. You got to go get that. Everyone is amazing as they are. That's one of our key points in the book. We have to articulate that. So write down like why you are amazing as you are. What are your strengths that you have as you are? The things that you do really well, the way you show up that's really well. It might not be reflected in your job. It might not be known to your boss, but you know it. Write that down and get to a place as quickly as you can where you have a real sense of what makes you amazing as you are. Not just to like feel better, but to have greater confidence to pitch yourself and to situate yourself in this new world of work.
It's interesting because sometimes it's hard to think about what you're good at. You know, you talked about going to therapy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You know, I asked you what's one thing people can do to go home and learn AI, and you were kind of like, well, love yourself.
Yeah,
It's quite jokes to take home. Before I leave, you know, AI is moving so quickly. You talk about it all the time. Is there anything you've changed your mind about since you've written this book? When it comes to what AI means for us, all of us out there, and how things are going, or anything you'd add if you'd rather go that way?
Well, so 2 years ago, I did a op-ed in the New York Times. It was just sort of like, humans, we're not done. And it was like a guess, because at that time, every big AI technologist was like, humans were done. You know, unemployment insurance for everyone, like we get to not work and we'll figure it out, but like we're done. And it felt really risky. I mean, I couldn't get it. I felt like we were more than we'd been. I started with an assumption AI could be a solution to a problem, not a challenge to a status quo, because as I said, I thought the labor market was broken. So I was like out there. And then for a couple of years, it's been really hard to be out there, because it's been a very lonely experience, because people either didn't believe this story, or they thought it was mushy and abstract. They thought that it was like, maybe it could be true in a different world, but that won't be true in this world. And so you're just like off on this like utopia. Like I used to hate when people called me optimistic. I still get triggered by it, because it completely, to me, undermined the credibility of what I was trying to say. It's like much harder to be an optimist than a pessimist. You have to have more homework done, more receipts backing your argument, because our brain is just more willing to accept skepticism, cynicism. And so it was just really hard. And so I'd say, like, what's been comforting is that it feels like we as humans are starting to recognize, like, okay, this is like an interesting tool. It's a new tool. It might be better than any other tool, but like maybe it's not all that we thought it was going to be 2 years ago. And maybe we're realizing whatever it's going to be because of how we all choose to use it. And you're seeing that at a lot of companies where it's like, oh, we're just going to bring AI in, and then productivity is going to go up, like they thought with the electric motor. Like, humans matter. And we're seeing that play out. Like, if humans aren't using it or using it in the right way, you're not getting any real return on it. We will decide this. And so I think what's been most exciting to me, looking at the moment we're in now, is I think a lot of folks, when GPT hit, were paying attention. And then AI kind of like was stumbling here and there, and people kind of went away. And meanwhile, the technology sector was like autonomous AI, agentic AI, super intelligent AI, got like deeper and deeper in AI. Something about the fear of no jobs for new grads and what's happening to people coming out of university in the US, this like fear that entry-level work is going away. Something about our compassion for people coming into the labor market is starting to organize us as humans. We're starting to pay attention. We're starting to bring skepticism, but also like a sense of what is agency to be had, what is that aspiration to be found. So I mean, the fact that you're all here is like the thing that makes me most comforted and excited about where we're going.
It's quite empowering to think that to shift the narrative from AI is not happening to us, and we can also happen to it, and actually need to be happening to it.
Yeah.
And I always say no one's better at using AI for your job than you, because you're the one that knows the best exactly what you do. So thank you so much for sharing your brilliant insights, and thank you so much to all of you for joining us.
Yes. Thank you. That's
Thank
great.
You.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aneesh, thank you. Andrew Gould, I'm the Actionable Futurist. I love that one of your 5 C's is curious.
Yeah.
I wrote a bestseller called Digitally Curious.
Oh, nice.
But my question for you is, we keep hearing this phrase that AI won't take your job.
Yeah.
So people know how to use AI will take it.
Yeah.
But I have another one. AI demands better humans. Discuss.
Yeah. No, I think AI will reveal more than it will replace. It'll reveal what's possible for humans. It hasn't been true about how we've defined our capability before. The other end of it is better humans. We are more us. We understand ourselves better. We're connected to others better. The minute you get pro you, you're pro everyone, because you realize every human has had moments of challenge and strife. But we have to recognize the systems and structures we've grown up in as humans in the industrial age have not helped us be better humans. They've helped us be better machines. So it's going to take work, and we're going to have to redesign education, redesign employment, redesign entrepreneurship. But getting to better humans, I think, should be our shared goal.
Yeah, from the woman in the blazer?
Yeah.
And then you, sorry.
We're going to have like 5 people total, okay? Up to.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So that's been really interesting. And my question is slightly outside, I guess, the realm of work because it's related. But we've talked a lot about AI in the workplace and in terms of productivity. But I think that a lot of us rely on it hugely to help navigate political situations. And you were saying, you know, it doesn't replace the kind of human to human. It replaces the work to work. But how accurate is it when it comes to, you know, relying on AI to kind of help us in emotional situations or situations where we almost need a therapist at work or outside work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both, right? There's the binary is like good, bad. It's neither, it's both often. So we were talking about this earlier, like AI sort of raises to generically available compassion. Because now you can go to these tools in a way you might not have a human around you to be like, am I amazing? What am I amazing at? Or like, how do I have this hard conversation? And it's going to give you what's like generically available, which might be more than what is available to you from other humans. But then you're going to want to go beyond that. And you're going to want to, even if you use it, like my wife's an academic dermatologist, she's in healthcare, she's a doctor, she sees patients. They are in academic medicine, you know, pretty far behind on AI for all sorts of good reasons. They're worried about HIPAA or in the US, which is like, you know, patient confidentiality, all that. Her first, and she had me at home like all day, every day talking about this stuff. So she started using it just to help her draft emails that she always was in her head about how do I do this or that. And then she picks it up and edits it where it's off, but it is like her go-to as a first draft. Her life is better because I'm someone that needs to talk through thoughts, and I have many, and she was like getting bombarded for years with like like imagine what it is to live with me. Now I go to the tools a lot. I'm like, oh, this thing is cool, and it'll give me stuff, and it just helps me like refine my thinking in my brain and hold it because I want to think on it more. So it's just like how you use it. It's not going to be like you give it everything or you give it nothing.
Yeah, because I also wanted to say I've noticed that there's like a real bias towards the user. It's like, oh, you know, if
I know,
you're
that's
rude to
right.
your colleague, don't worry, you're on the right.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
this is how you navigate it. And how do we kind of separate what is actually a bias?
Well, so this is where like you got to get better at being a better human, which is like if you feel like it's just telling you you got to tell it not to do that. But one of the best tricks you can do is don't tell it to give you an answer. Tell it to give you 4 challenges to what you think your answer is, or tell it to give you 12 options for what an answer could be. Like, don't have it be the final answer. Have it be like a thing that you're throwing spaghetti against the wall and that you're pushing yourself to judge that. But if you were to, again, overuse AI, outsource everything to it, it tells you you're great. It tells you you're right to feel wrong, that you should go in armed with that righteousness and like go yell at whoever you're angry about. You're going to be worse off at work. Like that's like, you're going to know that, and that's going to happen to you. So you've got to be careful about how you use it. Yeah.
At Meta, I actually made tough love bots that told you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. So thank you very much, and great timing. So we're driving a transformation in a large global company that I joined 7 months ago within the marketing team. And we want to become AI native, so AI first. And we're positioning that transformation in terms of the skills and the capabilities that we need. And what you just described as those 5 C's, when we position that with our HR colleagues, they tell us that those are soft skills and they're more behavioral stuff. So I feel so empowered, and I want some advice on how I can go and change that conversation into these are real human skills that we absolutely need, rather than just soft behavioral ones. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Meet people where they're at with empathy. Industrial age, they were soft. I mean, I think that we like undermined our own sense of self because of it. But like efficiency, production of goods and services, nice to have, not must have. We now have like a couple of years of data where if you continue to think they're soft, like where's the data that shows that AI alone is leading to growth? And so there's 2 versions of people that you could help them think about. One is, I'm saying everyone like use these tools, right? So someone without access to these tools or without using these tools, like they're in a tough spot. We also have more and more cases now, and engineers are a great example, computer scientists are a great example, where they have been incentivized to be heroes by just like being in a room alone, crushing code. Now AI can do code. So suddenly, and I'm hearing this in a number of companies, they're having to bring their engineers with that time saved from code into meetings with customers, because like that's now the job. You have to like hear from customers and there are engineers at very senior levels who are very uncomfortable looking at people in the eye. Like literally they're in the room and they're looking down as they're conversing with an important customer, which is like a really bad moment. So that is also on the task list. It's not just, are we getting people AI native? It's, are we getting people human native? And so helping them understand that, I think, is going to be key. And then the question will be, well, I can't adjudicate resilience. I can adjudicate technical ability. And I think that's correct and that's fair. And we have done very little to build pedagogy around human capability, to build teaching, training, credentialing, assessing. I don't think we're going to go from like, you got a boot camp certificate in coding to you got a boot camp certificate in compassion, because it's very subjective. What we offer up is work product is the new resume. All of us are going to go into jobs and it's not going to be tell me who you are. It's going to be show me what you've done. So because you can build now. You can literally like create an app or create a video or create whatever you want to do, a research project, a new way to go in and tell this company you're interviewing with how they could do things differently. So show me what you've done and then tell me the story of how you did it. And you're going to tell me a story where I'm going to need to hear that you failed or that you were adaptable or that you had to like partner with people in a way that like really took work. So you're going to adjudicate it around the work product. But I think what companies are going to have a hard time getting, because it's a transition from old to new, is you're not solving for productivity anymore. You're solving for innovation. So AI first means you're going to do efficiency everywhere better. You're going to do everything you're doing now more easily with fewer people. And if you just go down that road, you're going to be out of business in about 5 to 10 years because you're going to come up with nothing new. Because everything you're doing with these tools, your competitors can do with these tools. They make generic, universally available. So if what you're building for is innovation, that's the human stuff.
Hard to measure compassion too.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Thank you both for the conversation. It was extremely interesting. I'm going to call a little bit on the Chief Economic Opportunity Officer in you. Awesome job title, by the way, as you said, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a development economist myself, which means that if I'm evaluating a policy, the first question I'll ask is, who's being left behind?
Yes.
And so the question for that is, I mean, it was brilliant on an individual level. I understand your argument. I look forward to reading the book. But that means in that transition that we're experiencing, who is being left behind? Because we've long done work on internet access across countries and within countries. That seems like that's that on steroids, right? And if you zoom out from that a little bit, you mentioned productivity, so I have to ask that. If the productivity gains of AI do come in, who's capturing those?
Yeah. So you'll love the chapter on economies because we start with this, and my background across, the governor's office with Obama White House is more on the policy side, or as much on the policy side. So I think about this a lot. The first group we have to worry about leaving behind is like the digital divide. So global South, top of like a lot of people's list, broadband, divide in the US, rural America. You got to have access to these tools. You got to have an awareness about why you want to use these tools. And then you have to have tools that speak to you in your cultural know-how. You've got to be able to use them. So you're not just talking about you need access to the internet that's reliable to have the tools. You need education about these tools so that people understand this is helpful for them as a farmer, in sub-Saharan Africa or in India. This is something that you want to use, that you can use, and that you can converse with in a way that it can understand you. So that's like basic thing one, and we have a ton of work to do. Because by the way, adoption is really low, given how amazing the tool is. It's even lower among women, which is becoming a gender issue. It's low in the global South, which is becoming an entrenching inequity issue. So that's thing one. Then thing two is, you've got a lot of people, generally from historically marginalized groups, who are really good at the 5 Cs. Like, who has like the best degree, the Harvard level degree in resilience, adaptability, like refugees. Like, let's take them as an example. Now we got to help them be able to say that and explain that story, because they've been told to like hide that and shrink that. And we've got to make sure employers are able to recognize that. And the tools can help us translate all this into it, but there's like work to do. So that's like the second group we could leave behind. This should be a shortcut to economic mobility for the most marginalized in the world. If we do this right, we've got to set not just the foundations of it, but we've got to set the sort of infrastructure around employment on both sides of that to make it so. And then to your point about who captures the gains, to me, the most exciting opportunity here is this era of innovation and entrepreneurialism, unlike any we've seen before. So if you think about who got to be an entrepreneur, first of all, in the industrial age, you needed money to go build something, a railroad, a car. Generally, you started off wealthy with the ability to do that. You like had the connections, the credentials, the capital to go invent stuff. Then with technology, like maybe it was more universally possible. People could launch companies in their garage, but still you need to hire engineers. You need VC money to do that. If you looked a certain way or for a certain community, like people didn't back you, you couldn't do it. With this tool, like anyone can launch a business. Everyone doesn't have to, but more people than ever before can, and can create wealth for themselves in a way that they couldn't before. The best way that we're going to guarantee we have net employment at the other end of this, like a net gain, is by new business starts. I mean, Jensen at NVIDIA has a line, every company is going to become as small as possible and stay as big as necessary. And that number of employees is going to be around this innovation question. How many employees you need with the tools and the right workflows to keep innovating. But we're going to need new business starts. And in those new business starts, we have an opportunity for people that never got to launch a business. It's almost microfinancing, but almost in this like new entrepreneurship lens, to be able to build businesses that don't have to go be billion-dollar like IPOs. Businesses for their community, for their region, but that generate income and wealth to a degree that they weren't able to do before. All of that requires a different policy conversation than we're having now. Right now, in most places, the playbook that policymakers are developing is what we've seen in past disruptions, which is we're going to wait for mass layoffs and be ready like a response to adjust to that. And the way we're going to adjust to that is once everyone's laid off, we're going to go to employers and say, what are the jobs of the future and what are the skills you need? Then we're going to take that answer over to educators and say, okay, create skilling around this. And like, that's not going to work. Employers have no idea what they're going to need. So you're not going to get that employer demand. And waiting until their layoffs misses the power of this moment where we can be preventative with our support. Help people adapt in the jobs they're in. Help people adapt in the careers they're in. Help people launch businesses who have that possibility. Like, there's so much more we can be doing at the front end of this to help people manage it that lead to all the outcomes that we all want. So a lot of what I'm going to try and do now is push a more preventative measure, adaptability, support focused, entrepreneurial, social safety net kind of conversation that I think policymakers need to be having.
You've mentioned previously that there is a little bit of embarrassing for those who use AI to say, been using AI, where in fact we should be saying that's cool because I use the new tools.
Yeah.
Here's a direct question, if you are comfortable responding to it. Have you used any of the AI tools to write your book? And if so, do you have any tricks on how to write a book using AI?
Yeah, we talk about it. In the 5 C's with communication, we talk about how we use the tools. So Ryan and I had never written a book before. We were exceptionally naive 2 years ago when we said, let's write a book. Feels like there's a big story. There's a lot that goes into it. First, you have to write a proposal and get a publisher to buy the book. You don't have to do that, but we want to have a book that could shape a global conversation. So we were like, okay, we have to have a publisher. Then you get a publisher to say, okay, we'll do the book, but you've written a guess of what the book is. It's like a synopsis of an idea that's abstract at best. Now you got to go write the book. You got to actually think about chapters, think about sub-chapters, think about everything that has to go in there. So the tools at first were just helpful for us to conceptualize, what does a book look like? You could ask the tools to write a book. It could give you kind of 100 pages. You could start to see structure, but it wasn't of texture. It wasn't of what we wanted. We used it a lot for research. That was the first round, and then we'd have humans review. You use it for structure, where does what fit? Give me different options. But then what we really recognized in the course of writing the book is that everything that makes the book is about human to human. We had a moment in May last year where we had been working on a specific book that was our best guess at what people wanted this book to be, which was going to be more career focused. We were going to have an acronym DRIVE, I think it was, some acronym that each letter stood for something about how you're going to manage your career. And I go into a meeting with Ryan, and he's like, is this our book? And I'm like, no. And we knew each other well enough that it was a safe zone of everything we've been working on, we can kind of put it aside instinctively because this doesn't feel right. And we both start talking, what is the book we want to say? And it was this book. It was we want everyone to recognize we get where you're at, but we need you to know there's all this stuff happening, and there are ways that you can approach this and feel agency. And we were it's kind of like Apollo 13 and this idea that failure is not an option. All the systems were failing, the odds were impossible, but they just focused on each step. That becomes our introduction. We were people got to just buckle up. This is going to hit quicker than people think. I mean, people are getting it now. 2 years ago, a year ago, it was still that becomes chapter 1. You know what? Buckle up, but towards what? If we're just saying everything's going to change and it's going to change to worse, we got to remind people how work is not indexed on human capability. Okay, let it go. Chapter 2. We got to affirm what makes us us. The humans are coming. Chapter 3. This is all in that meeting. We're starting to piece together this stuff. And then we had a research team behind it. We had people to help us bring in the member stories. There's not a sentence in this book about Ryan or I. Every bit about this book is written by and for workers. So we went and found LinkedIn members from every background, from every career stage. Our nonprofit partners helped us. They're in the book. Then it's just on the phone with humans, like Jonetta Grisham in her 50s, hell no to AI. Grew up watching Terminator, Terminator 2, totally convinced this was a robot apocalypse. Used it to help her up her resume and call out skills she didn't know she had. Used it to help her learn something in a way that she liked to learn, which school never taught her, with analogies, with stories, got that certification. She's in there, Ume's in there, Diego's in there, Taj is in there, Neil's in there, Vivian's in there, Ethan's in there, Connor's in there, Paul's in there. So it's all stories of other people that there's at least one person in here, you'll be like, oh, that's me, to enough of a degree that I can take what they're saying as representative of what I can feel. That's all human. So it became its own, the story of the book is the book. It was a lived experience of everything we're saying in it. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you all so much once again. If you wanted to buy a book, you can get it signed by Aneesh right over there at the orange table. And thank you so much, Aneesh.
Yeah.
Once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's
Lovely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Follow him over there. Okay, so yeah. Oh, Georgia, I'm going to give you this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.